Hey friends, we're going to talk about another fun topic this time, and I know it's going to get me into some trouble, but I guess that's okay with me. My name is Lisa. This is Life with Fife. It's a podcast where we talk about knitting. We talk about how knitting relates to our lives, how it connects us to our creativity, how it helps us to be happier people, live more meaningful lives, and allows us to we can do knitting in a mindful way where it allows us to kind of release negative thinking and be more mindful and productive, and it brings peace to the mind, to the heart, and to the hands. So those are some of the things we talk about. We also talk about how knitting relates to life, and currently I have been on a deep dive with Superwash wool and all the ways that it is really a negative for our environment. And I've gotten a lot of unpleasant comments on this. And I think that it's because knitters feel that they want, and understandably so, we are doing something that is good for us and healthy for us. And we don't want to have to be now feeling like we're part of a problem. And that is not my intention, but I do think it's really important to understand what it is that we're purchasing. For me as a consumer, I like to know exactly like what the consequences of what I purchase, what the consequences are. And so the first thing is, when I looked into this, that superwash wool, the vast majority of wool that is used in this country, is purchased by the fashion industry and is superwash because they want to sell it as something that is easily washed. So that tells me that we need to educate people about the washability of wool, because real wool doesn't really need to be washed that often. It naturally repels bacteria, and it just doesn't. It's just a breathable, very naturally clean and fabric. So it doesn't need to be washed every time every time you wear it. I wash my wool sweaters every few months, and I think most of us do that. And I have some sweaters that I wear that I'm always wearing something underneath that I wash maybe once every 6 months. So it's really something that obviously we need to kind of educate. It's like a woman I work with said to me one time that she will never buy anything that says dry clean only, which is how the fashion industry kind of markets and sells wool items. She says, I can't be bothered with dry cleaning. I can't be bothered with all like difficult fabrics. And to me, and probably to many of you, wool is one of the easiest fabrics to have. And I put my kids in it when they were little, and it was very easy. If I had to wash it, you washed it in the sink and you would lay it flat. And so the care of wool we need to kind of do a better job somehow of getting the message out there that wool does not need to be washed so much, and that it is a long-lasting fabric, and that it is compostable because it will break down in the environment. But what happens to wool when it goes out there? So the fashion industry takes it in and they coat it in plastic and call it, and say it's washable now. This is superwash. And then the military does the same thing. And I don't think there's going to be much we can do about how the military treats their wool. However, we can, and part of what we do in knitting culture, which is so great, is that we take away from the fast fashion market, right? That anything that we make for ourselves is really great and takes away from that market. So that is a huge, huge positive, and I'm really happy about that. And I think that we should continue to knit for that reason and that reason alone. What I also heard back from some of you is that there is this culture of FOMO in the knitting world, on Ravelry, here on YouTube, on Instagram, where knitters are posting numerous photos of projects that with very expensive yarns, and it just feels like we can't keep up. It's overwhelming. That same feeling that we get in consumer culture is kind of creeping its way into the knitting culture as well. And I know personally how I deal with that is because I have so many favorites in my Ravelry store. I think I have hundreds of favorites, things that I save. But I don't buy the yarn for them, and I don't pull the trigger with the pattern until I'm really ready to do it. And I like to look at patterns, and I think patterns are There's so many amazing patterns out there. But what I'm personally doing is this year, and probably for the next couple of years, because realistically, I just can't get the knitting done that I want to. I don't have the time to do it. I'm sticking with Elizabeth Zimmerman, who teaches through her methods, she teaches skills. And so I'm able to kind of learn how to do a drop shoulder sleeve, learn how to do a steek, a V-neck steek or a crew neck. So I learned different shoulder techniques. I learned different neckline techniques. I learned how to do a lot of things in the round. I'm also going to, look into doing some flat pattern in pieces to see how that works for me. But I'm focusing on skills. I'm not focusing on patterns. I want to focus on learning to become the best knitter that I can be. Therefore, I can look at a pattern and I can say, I could probably do something like that, right? And I can make it my own, or I can design something like that for myself. Because I think that's what I love about Elizabeth Zimmerman, is that was what she intended for all of us. Like, she gave us recipes, and she often said, like, your mind is as good as mine. So, here are the details. Here's how I did it. You go for it. Right. And, yeah, and I really appreciate that. And I love that kind of do it yourself attitude. And it just is natural to me. So that is something that I, bring to all things in my life. But for knitting, it is how I push back against that culture that says, you need to make this sweater. This is the latest sweater. This is what's happening. Look, have you tried this one? Oh, everybody's got this sweater. It is there. And, but we have agency, and we don't have to participate if we don't want to. Then the other thing that I found, which was really interesting as I started to look around, I found out about something called the Fibershed, which probably many of you already know about, because so many of you are so savvy to various aspects of the sustainability movement in the yarn industry. And Fibershed, though, for those of you who don't know, Fibershed is a not-for-profit organization that encourages people to bring their clothing, to make as much of their clothes as they can from local producers of fabric and yarn. So it takes it a step further. So for someone like me who is concerned about this, I would purchase yarn from local Fibershed producers that are like nearby me. So I'm not going to be using, gas or a plane to get the wool to me. I'm just going to either drive my own car or mail it. They'll mail it to me a short distance, and it just reduces the footprint of the whole operation, right? So now I have wool that is produced in an ethical fashion, because that's the other criteria that they have. There's things like allowing sheep to graze, to rotate where they graze, so that they don't deplete an area of grassland too heavily in one season, because this can lead to desertification of the environment. There's ways of treating sheep that are more ethical than is done in the mass farming industry. So these are things that matter to me, and if they matter to you, you can take a look at the local Fibershed community in your local area, or you can get the book Fibershed, which I just ordered. I'm going to be sharing more about that, and it's a great way to just kind of connect you to the sustainability movement that is happening in the yarn world. They still do dyeing, but it's mostly plant dyeing. And I found a local producer near me who makes beautiful yarns that are in a range of colors that are, perfect for my needs. There's no neons, and there's not a huge palette of colors, but there's a good enough palette of colors that I can use it. And there's lots of beautiful natural colored sheep wool that is available. And the price for those, just to give you an idea of what a skein would cost, it's about $20 for a skein of 200 yards. So it's slightly more expensive, and it could be double the price if you shop at Michael's or something like that. But for me, it's important, and it's something that I want to try. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to be doing that exclusively. It just means that I'm going to really give this a shot and see how much I can do. And what I'm really pleased to report is that this winter I can rotate. I've made enough knits now that I can rotate my wardrobe, that I'm really kind of always wearing something that I purchased secondhand or made myself. And I love that. And I think that that's something that I really enjoy. And I think that the style that I have, it is unique and it is kind of not, I don't look trendy perhaps, but I also feel like myself. And I think the things that I wear are really nice. And I think it's a good look. It's a cool look. It's an unusual look. Um, and it's something that, maybe you would like to do something like that as well. So, yeah, it's kind of exciting. So there's the bad news, that is that wool as a whole is releasing a lot of carbon into the environment. Sheep are doing this. Sheep farms are releasing a lot of carbon, but that's because we have commercial sheep farmers who sell to the larger fashion industry and the military as a whole. Small local sheep producers, sheep raisers, sheep farmers, those are not the big problems in our greenhouse gas. So if you're buying from smaller farms, if you're buying from sheep that graze naturally and that are using rotational schedules, and many of these small local farms, many small farms do this already, then you are on the right track. And yeah, so that's all I've got to report. Oh, so let me tell you about my knitting. I haven't kind of updated you on what I'm working on. Here's my daughter's sweater. It's coming along. I have about another inch, and then I'm going to break into the sleeves. So it's really cool. I think it's going to be really nice. I hope she likes it. I was worried it was going to be too oversized, but I think it's actually going to be fine. And it's an open cardigan, so it'll have there'll be some room there. But what'll happen next is I'm gonna steek the armholes and pick up, and then also steek the front, pick up stitches, and then I'm gonna knit the sleeves. I'm gonna do the band around the edge and put on a button band and sew the buttons on, and it'll hopefully be ready in the next 2 weeks, and then I can get started on my son's sweater. I'm making a hat for my husband. Believe it or not, this is the first project I'm knitting for my husband. He's very picky, and I still won't knit him a sweater, but I'll knit him a hat. He's told me exactly what he wants, and I've become a good enough hat knitter now that I can make him something. So we'll be in England for Christmas, and this is the first time we've traveled overseas in 20 years. And this is the first time overseas for my son. And we're going to go see our daughter, who's over at Oxford for the year. And it's really exciting. We're really happy. And today I just put up some beautiful, I'll put some pictures of that at the end. I put up some beautiful pine bows around my light fixtures and started, sliced some oranges and hung those up. So it's starting to feel a little bit like Christmas around here, and looking forward to Thanksgiving, although it's going to be just us, and which is fine. We make lots of really good food, and we have such a cozy house. It's such a nice time to just sort of be together. And I'm hoping for all of you that you are also safe and happy and knitting away. And yeah, namaste.